Hi everyone, and welcome to the special episode of Catholic Table Talk Podcast. This is the podcast where everything Catholic is on the table for the 100th time, for the 100th episode. Thank you for joining me. It's truly a milestone, and man, we hit 100, 100, triple digits. I remember when I was so happy we hit episode 10 with Why Do We Pray? I was so happy. I'm like, man, this is the best feeling ever. And now, look, 9 episodes later, this is our 100th. Well, lots of stuff to get to today. I'm flying solo today. We're going to talk about, too, just, how God has impacted me and maybe perhaps you in your life. Some of it, maybe we have talked on the show before. I think most of it's original. I just kind of wrote down some just kind of notes of how God has affected me. And then also, we're going to talk a little bit about, and this kind of ties in with that, the Eucharistic Revival that is happening in our world today, going on for another couple years. We're going to talk about that, and of course, we're going to get to thank yous because without the show, it wouldn't be possible without you. But first of all, today's episode is brought to us by Dr. Katrina Wing. Dr. Katrina is a physician, a medical doctor. See how she can help you, your community, and your family out at mdkatrina.com, mdkatrina.com. You can also find her at mycatholicdoctor.com. Thank you for Dr. Wing for sponsoring today's show again. If you'd like to be a sponsor, please look it up on YouTube. Sponsorship opportunities. That's just another great way to help support the show. Also, donations at catholictt@gmail.com, catholictt@gmail.com. And also, for any guest requests or show requests, that's what makes it unique is because I want your feedback. I want you as the listeners, the audience, the viewers, to get back to me on what you think of the show, what you want on the show, and who you want on the show. So make sure you leave them in the comments below. And of course, like, subscribe on all of our channels, and share the show. Please share the show to help us to reach more souls in the next 100 episodes. So again, 100 episodes. I cannot say this enough. It's really, truly humbling. Like I said, I'll kind of talk about it more in a little bit, but just thinking about how the podcast started and now where it is, was kind of truly incredible. And I'm still growing on platforms, audience, and all that, and hopefully again it keeps up and picks up even more. So today's show is kind of inspired by the couple other great Catholic guys, young men that went with me on a seminary visit just a few weeks ago. Like I mentioned about last episode, I kind of asked them, like, hey guys, you have any show ideas? And one of them was, hey, let's why not you do a few priests and talk about the vocations? Great idea. Sadly, I didn't reach out in time or reach out just because still finishing up school, still very busy. So trying to get like 3 to 4, maybe 5 priests or so to come together and have an afternoon of talk is kind of difficult, and even like I said, with me still being in school, is difficult still. And the other one, a couple others said, hey, why not do how God has affected you and Eucharistic Revival, which, and like I said, in part, they kind of go hand in hand with what I'm going to say. So that's what it's about. And then, of course, like I said, thank yous at the end. So, again, I will try not to be too emotional today. I know it's just prepping for the show, thinking about the show, 100th episode, I got a little emotional. So, notice I wasn't looking at the camera when I said that, but, anyway. First off, we'll start off with just kind of what ways has God impacted my life. And like I said, I think most of this is original. I'd love to hear your feedback as well, so leave them in the comments below. I wrote down 5 general terms, nothing really in order. I mean, I wrote them down one, 5 to 1, but again, nothing really set in stone of this is number 1, this is number 5, this is. But first of all, I mean, there's one is just, I mean, so many different ways that I don't even know God has infected me. I mean, just because everything happens for a reason. He lets us, he lets us face temptation and trials in our life, different trials, different temptations, different stages in life. Very much so. I mean, basically ever since confirmation, I've really began to see it more. You know, um, I was still a very good Catholic before confirmation, and I'm not saying that I'm a great Catholic now, but ever since after confirmation, I'm just starting to really notice things in my life. Like I said, just kind of like the different stages of temptation, trials in my life. Like, okay, well that trial is here for a reason because I'm at this stage in my life. That trial is here for this reason. That type of stuff. So again, God allows trials to come our way to make us stronger and more holier. If we can overcome them with His grace. So again, there's so many different ways that I want to have. I mean, just think about yourself. Just think about your life and how God has affected you in many ways that you don't know about. I mean, there's probably we might think, okay, I can see God working there. He's affecting me in that part of my life. He affected me in that time I, almost got in a car accident, but I either walked away from like a car accident without a scratch, or I got through it. Well, God affected my life there because I could see Him, working there. Um, I don't know, I'm just throwing out ideas for you, but really consider that how has God affected your life in ways you don't know. Some things you probably would think, like I said, oh, I know, that's pretty cool. I never thought of like that before. God, I can see God working in me there. Other times, I mean, there's so many different other ways that we don't even know about that we don't probably maybe never will know about. Like I know of multiple people have said about just spiritual warfare, like we're always under a spiritual attack, but thanks to God and Saint Michael and the saints, and our guardian angel, of course, don't forget our guardian angel, um, that only so many spiritual attacks happen. There are many others that we cannot even see that God is not letting, that He's taking them on, and He's not letting them get to us. So, again, there's just so many different ways that um, you don't really know about. I mean, for me, again, it's kind of, I think, and I think for this too, maybe too, is just like trusting God, even though when you say, you're not really saying it, but you're kind of laying on the table, like, get me through this, and then God is affecting you there, and then you look back and, you're like, hey, that was actually God getting me through that, not just like, hey, I got through that very, very difficult business meeting today, Um, so, I said, there's many different ways that God does not know about, and I truly have many that I do not know about, but some of the ways I do know about is just, like I said, having received that extra grace through confirmation, um, just kind of really becoming an adult Catholic, like we're called to be when we get conformed. Um, and then just kind of like what I talk about later on, but just ever since COVID, I mean, again, it's a lot of bad stuff happening during COVID, but a lot of good things also happened during COVID-19. And I know for other people it was actually for the better, and I would say that was probably maybe a little bit with me too. So again, ways guys affecting me. So many ways we don't know about. I just ask you to reflect on that, think about it, pray about it, and see how God is affecting you, and in ways that you also might realize otherwise, or maybe you don't know still, which is totally fine. Another one for me is events like games, sporting events. Um, I'm just really very blessed and thankful to be in a great family and a great environment, a great community, um, and that type of stuff, and just be able to go to the games that other people cannot go to, like, sporting games. Very big into baseball and football, so the NFL, MLB, all that stuff. NBA, sorry, I don't like it. College basketball is pretty good. NHL is good, but NBA is not my favorite. But anyway, just going to the different events and just really, or driving down there safely, getting back safely, and just kind of stopping in that moment and be like, wow, God is affecting me here, just so I can spend this time with my family and friends, and go out to the baseball park, that only holds, like, I know it's a lot, but 50,000 people, right? So only 50,000 people can come to today's game, and we were one of the lucky ones who got down here, 2 who can afford it, and 3 who can enjoy it at the ballpark. So that is pretty special right there. For me, it's going to football games. I love the NFL. Like I said, it's my favorite sport. So just kind of going to the football stadium, soaking it all in, looking around the stadium. Um, it's time just kind of slows down, I think, at, events. And maybe there are other events. Maybe it's a family gathering. Maybe it's this and that. But just really, like Dirk Smetley says in his song, Dirk Smetley, not living, some days you're just living, you know, some days you're really just living in that grace that, hey, God is really effective in me here, because I get to be nice, I get to talk to other people, I get to be nice to other people, I get to share be a good witness to Jesus in a public setting during this event. So that's another way God is affecting me in that way. Like, another one is friends and family. I put them separate, but I put them together. Again, like I said, I just been so blessed to have been raised in a great Catholic family, and just have really many great Catholic friends who have supported me, and just has really, helped me along my faith journey. So that has really helped as well, and I can see God working through them for me, with me, and like Jesus says, when there's 2 of you, there I am in your midst. So again, it's pretty cool that again, yeah, you have God working in you, and some ways you can really see Him working in you afterwards. Other ways you can't, but if you let Him love you, and you let Him work in you, chances are, you're going to see how effective He is working through you, by the Holy Spirit. And finally, for the ways God has affected me, it's probably the biggest and the most recent, the most one that I can really talk about, and I kind of like to brag or talk about a lot, is a podcast. And I don't mean that just for me because I'm famous and people call me a local celebrity or whatever the case might be. Okay, it's happened. Um, it's really truly kind of amazing, just because, again, if you know me, you know that I don't really have many hobbies besides watching football on Sundays. That's my hobby, and that sounds really bad, but that's what I do. That's basically my biggest hobby before I started the podcast. Um, and of course that was before college, but now with college wrapping up, starting work again, I would be in the same situation. I'd be like, well, what kind of hobbies do I like to do? And, like I said, I have really no idea where the thought came from. It's just sitting on my chair during COVID, in my gap year, and, if you know me, you know that I'm not great with building things. I'm not great with working with tools. I'm not very imaginative to, like, hey, let's go out and we're gonna work on this today. We're gonna work on this car today. It's not gonna happen with me. If you don't know me. So and living in the Midwest is kind of like, yeah, you got a lot of hunting and fishing opportunities, but I don't really do that either. So again, I basically just sit down, have really bad food, junk food like pop, chips, beat song every Sunday, and watch football all day. Doesn't matter who's playing, but that's only one day a week. Which I do point out that it is a Lord's Day, so I am resting. I am having fun on the Lord's Day. I'm not working, so that's a plus. But really, just going back to the podcast, I know I've said this multiple times on the show, but just like how God has affected me, it's just like, you know, I mean, yeah, there's many, let's see, there's many things, many times that I'm like, I don't really want to do this week's show. I don't really want to record this week's show, especially if it's by myself. But at the end of the day, you know, I still do it. I still make myself accountable for it. And I don't think that's totally on me. I think that's God holding me accountable too. Say, hey, preach the gospel. Hey, do this, do that. So, you know, podcast is really impacting me just because, again, it's like my number one hobby that I do. I get to meet so many great guests on the show. Basically, like other guests who have been on the show either once or twice or more than twice. As I said, I'll come back on anytime if you want me on. Let me know. Um, and, and just learning more about the faith. And like Father Walkie says, if you learn more about the faith, you're gonna love the faith. If you're gonna love the faith, you're not gonna leave the faith. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm the best Catholic theologian, apologist, uh, or anything. I wouldn't really call myself that, really, besides, well, apologist. But again, it's really impacted me just on in terms of a personal standpoint of learning more about the faith, um, you know, having a better belief in God, having a better belief in what we do at church, in our faith, which I think many priests should say that more. I know my priests do, but I think we could even say it even more, and I think the world needs to hear that more. Um, and again, just during COVID, again, it was kind of like I was really, you know, really kind of not really down about COVID, but just kind of like, okay, well, like, what do? You know, you're in your gap year, you're not working, you're just being at home, sitting around, you know, what do you do? So, yeah, that's what happened. And also, like, so many things came out of COVID, too. I mean, I didn't write that down, but it could be because this is kind of a transition into Eucharistic Revival is the, you know, just really, like I said, more belief in the Eucharist, more believing what we do, came out of COVID and came on more out of the podcast a little bit, um, which, again, will lead us into a Eucharistic Revival, which is happening right now. But before I get into that, again, I want to thank everyone who watches the podcast just because, like I said, it's really impacting me on what I believe in, why I think, you know, um, how I believe it, and just like I said, it's the hobby. Yeah, it's I don't really have words for it, just because, again, just kind of felt the calling a little bit. I'm kind of shook off for a couple months before we got one with a podcast, but then next thing you know, I did a couple episodes and they kind of took off a little bit, and I'm like, dang, this is pretty fun. This is pretty neat. I better order a microphone, and you know, one of my priests gave me his webcam from COVID and everything, camera. So again, that's headphones. I mean, I already had headphones, but now I'm selling merchandise. I'm getting sponsors. And all that. And like I said, it's pretty cool. I think, and again, just really having that more. I'll leave it with this too, but it's like having the podcast. Kind of like I said, it makes you accountable. It makes you spend more time with God. Um, because you're learning about the faith, you're praying before the show, you're praying after the show, you're talking with guests, you're being a witness, right, in that. You're being a witness sharing the faith, defending the faith, keeping, telling you all up to date about the faith. Um, Again, this really has kind of affected me just because it's another way to kind of spend time with God, spend time and learn about the faith. And, you know, I won't have that probably if I didn't have the podcast. So, uh, yeah, I mean, again, you're doing it too because that's why you're listening. I mean, if you're what listening, you're not spending as much time learning about the faith or, you know, listening, but you are. So thank you for that. So yeah, podcast, most recent biggest impact. Been on a couple of podcasts. I've been asked on a couple other podcasts to come on and talk about the show. So hopefully I'll do that soon. But again, it's really, truly a privilege to be doing the podcast and seeing how God has worked in me, through me, to come to you is very powerful in itself. Not to mention, like I said, all the other things that I have no idea God has affected me in just the podcast alone. So, okay, yeah, like I said, and Eucharistic Revival is happening right now. And like I said, another thing that came out from how the guys affected me was from COVID. You know, hey, I don't know if you noticed, but we didn't go to church. We currently go to church, most of us, if not all of us, for like a couple of months, 3-4 months. And I really felt, I shouldn't say like I did not believe that Eucharist wasn't Jesus, but I really had a hunger for the Eucharist when churches were shut down during COVID. And like one of my friends, one of the men at my church said after COVID, he's like, I'll never take the Eucharist for granted again. And it's like, that's a very good point, because, going to church every Sunday, whether you know, you're going to weekday mass or not, but if you're just going to church and you're just receiving Eucharist, you're going to church, you're hearing the homily, you're going to church, you wave to your friends and you talk about, the week afterwards. It kind of gets you caught up like everything. It's just like a normal routine that it's like, hey, I'm going to church, I'm receiving Eucharist, which is, yeah, should be, I think it's, Jesus, truly in the body and blood of the Eucharist. But I don't really talk about it. And that was kind of me. But then after COVID, like I said, I had more of a hunger for Eucharist, and it really has shaped me into going to Holy Hour each week at my church. Going to weekday mass, and as often as I can. But and also reconciliation every couple weeks as well. So again, there's lots of great Eucharistic Revival stuff online. To be honest, I really didn't think much about it. I didn't really think or know much about it. That's what I mean, not really being a good Catholic, maybe right there. But that's when one of the guys from the seminary visit said, "Hey, you should do a show about this because we are in it." I'm like, "That's a good point." I remember we are in it, but I can't remember really how long or what's for or whatever. So there's many great links to go to. Find in the description down below. There's like a 2-minute video from the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. They do a Eucharistic procession. The YouTube site's LA Catholic, so it's about, like I said, a little over 2 minutes. Just kind of Eucharistic procession. And I got an article here from a section. I'll try not to talk too much on it, but it's from Taylor Thibodeau. It's from 2019, so before Eucharistic Revival started, but it's just kind of why society needs to spend more time in Eucharistic adoration. It may seem like a bit of a stretch, but society needs to spend more time in Eucharistic adoration. When I think of the direction our society is headed, it really makes me question how I'm living my life. I am constantly concerned and frustrated because it seems like no matter how many prayers I pray or how many people I try to help, I feel like the downward spiral that our society has been in for a while now just keeps getting worse. And that's basically the same thing. I mean, we all know that there's probably won't be really ever peace on earth just because of the consequence of sin of the earth, but we still pray about it, but we kind of get stressed about that. Like, hey, our prayers don't really matter, I don't think. I'm being a good witness, but the rest of the world, and even in my community, people I know are not. So, I don't know if this is really worth that. I don't see the fruits of the labor right now. But in the midst of all this uncertainty, there is one thing I don't question, Taylor says, and that is the need to be well. Yes, a matter of fact, it starts with me. On a daily basis, I am repeatedly trying to figure out how to fix the people around me or convert the masses who have fallen away. I think if I could just change them, they could just see what they were created for. Then our whole society would improve. But here's what I've come to realize: it should never start with a you mentality. It always should start with me. Michael Jackson once said, or sang it as well, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. And again, this kind of takes me back to Narnia, the movie, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, the third one, when the guy says, if you want to conquer the darkness outside in the world, outside there, you have to conquer the darkness and the pride and whatever is holding you back in the inside before you can make it, help change the world. It's interesting because when you think about it, it seems counterproductive to self-reflect. Um, One of the biggest problems of society, most people you meet have a view of the world that starts and ends with themselves. Many people say it's all about number one, meaning themselves. It's me, myself, and I. But the bulging thing is, most of the time, we only stretch the surface of who we really are. So I'll just kind of do a little bit about on the surface again. The links in the description if you want to read the whole thing by yourself. Who am I? Atheists, Buddhists, Christians, philosophers, Catholics, and many others have been pondering this question for centuries. To really know ourselves, we need to look beyond the surface. I think all of us are very good at seeing ourselves with an aerial view. We paint a picture of perfection on the outside, but we are not concerned of what is really under the surface. Yeah, you might say you're having a good day, right? But in truly you're not. You might say, I'll see you at church, when in fact you're in a state of more sin. This mentality is the root of egoism in our society. The remedy. So what does our society really need? We all want to help our society by doing our part. Some of us are even willing to take these hard steps and start with ourselves, but what's the steps? Here's what I get super Catholic, where I get super Catholic. If it starts with me, then I need to become who God created me to be. Yes, that rhymed. Yes, that might be lame. No, this is not a poem, but it is true. Yes, Saint Catherine of Siena famously said, and quote, if you become who you were created to be, you will set the world on fire, end quote. And then God created us to be world changers, truth seekers, leaders. But before we start critiquing and helping the world around us, we have to always start with ourselves. And basically, that has really infected me and impacted me of going to reconciliation, confession every other week. Just because, you really become more accountable for your sins. I feel you really notice your sins more. So, necessary for society, necessary for me. A better society starts with a better, more holier me. So, how does Eucharist play a role in this? St. Augustine says, "You are the body of Christ, member for member. If you, therefore, are Christ's body and members, it is your own mystery that is placed on the Lord's table, and we become what we receive. In that exchange, our Creator transforms us into an even truer image of ourselves and reflection of Him. Jesus sees the depths of us, even the parts that we try to hide, all of our brokenness and insecurities, and He fully knows us, and He fully loves us from that place. With Christ before us in adoration, we can see those broken parts of ourselves with courage because we know that He loves us and is with us when we do. Jesus reveals Himself in adoration just as He did at Emmaus in the breaking of the bread. He reveals to our identity when we feast our eyes upon Him in adoration, and also when we take into our body His presence through communion. What a mystery! And we, in turn, receiving the bread of life, become food for a broken and hungry world when we receive the Lord's presence. And isn't it that exactly what a world needs? The Gospel according to Matthew 5:13-14 says, "You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world." Food for the world. We have the opportunity to encounter the same Jesus every day. So let Him change you through the Eucharist first. Through you, He can change the course of our society. And remember, it only takes a few grains of salt to change the flavor. So again, the article is there if you want to read the whole thing. I just kind of touched over the overview of it. But again, why society needs more Eucharistic adoration? I mean, again, it all starts with us. I mean, we can't change the world without changing ourselves first. And basically, don't walk into adoration with to-do lists like, "Hey, Jesus, this is my to-do list. How goes it? This is what's going on in my life. Blah blah." I got my list of things right here on my note card saying, "Hey, I want and I kind of need. This is my want list, right? I want to go to the sporting events. I want to." I want to make so much money this month. I want to do this. I want to do that. Well, okay, this is what I need. No, go in with an open mind and just be present to Him in Eucharistic adoration. And, you can say the Divine Chaplet. You can say the Rosary. You can do prayers in the Missalette. You can do prayers on the app on your phone. You can just sit in patience. It doesn't really matter as long as you feel God's voice and hear God's voice and you're there. Like Jesse Romero always says, is like, don't feel like if you go and nothing happens the first time or two, just know that just being there, God always sees what we're doing, but having seen God on the altar, in the monstrous, he's looking straight at you, and your time is not wasted, even though maybe you feel like it's wasted, but your time is not wasted. So again, great article by Taylor Taradung from a section from a few years back. Also, I did not know this, but there is a National Catholic Revival website. It's EucharistRevival.org. Find the link below. They also have a Facebook page, National Eucharist Revival. I always want to say Catholic in there, but it's always just Eucharistic Revival. So yeah, just kind of went through the website real quick. They got lots of stuff. You can donate, links, you can learn about it, you can get involved. You can watch kind of the starting of it on YouTube. The newsletter, you can have a weekly newsletter. I did. I signed up for it, so it's pretty cool. I love the website. I think it's really cool. You can support the revival, like I said, and they have really great quotes from the gospel, from the Bible. Like John chapter 6, verse 51. I am the living bread that came down from heaven. Whoever eats this bread will live forever, and the bread that I will give is my flesh for the life of the world. So, and they kind of do a timeline, which is really cool too. So it takes time, as they say, to kindle a living, loving relationship, and a relationship with Jesus Christ is no exception. That's why Eucharistic Revival allows 3 years, not just 3 months, not just a week. No, 3 years for discernment, encourage, encounter, and grassroots response on the diocese, parish, and individual levels. Find out what to expect along this journey. So it all started on Corpus Christi, the Feast of Corpus Christi, last year, 2022, which just seems like yesterday. I remember working at my workplace on that weekend, and one of the customers was like, "Hey, it's Corpus Christi today." I'm like, "Hey, you're right." Um, but yeah, so it was launched on Corpus Christi 2022. Um, we launched our national response to Lord's Call with widespread Eucharistic processions and adoration on the solemnity of the most holy body and blood of Christ. As of today, last year, June, through this year, June 2023, so a couple months left, it's the year of diocese revival. So your diocese is doing more stuff on it. Actually, I just looked the other night and last night, and my diocese that I'm in just posted about what they're doing in the diocese for Eucharistic revival, with days coming up, and you know, opportunities to go to adoration, confession, mass, all that. So pretty cool, and they got really cool stuff coming up in the fall as well. So definitely, if you don't follow your diocese very closely, I recommend that you do, because again, up until June 11th, 2023, it's the diocese revival on diocese level. So try and make it to a couple diocese events if you can. Follow them on Facebook, Instagram. I mean, your diocese should be on all social media probably, so follow your diocese. Stay up to date with that. This first year of the revival invites diocese staff, bishops, and priests to respond to the Lord's personal invitation and equips them to share this love with the faithful through Eucharistic congregations and events. So on June 11th, 2023, it switches from diocese to local parishes until July 17th, 2024. The second phase will foster Eucharistic devotion at the parish level, strengthening our liturgical life through faithful celebration of the Mass, Eucharistic adoration, missions, resources, preaching, and organic movements of the Holy Spirit. So, pray about this. Maybe you can find ways, have ideas for your parish to have more ways for doing this type of stuff if they need help with coming up with ideas. Otherwise, maybe start asking your pastor about, hey, what are we doing starting June 11th? What are we doing for a parish revival? And then after that, July 17th to the 24th in 2024 at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana, is the National Eucharist Conference. At this historical event, more than 80,000 Catholics of all ages will gather in Indianapolis to reconsecrate their hearts to the source and summit of our faith. So, again, over 80,000 Catholics at Lucas Oil Stadium will gather in 2024 for the National Eucharist Congress. So, pretty cool. And of course, lastly, you're going out on a mission July 21st, 2024 through Pentecost Sunday 2025, Having enkindled a missionary fire in the hearts of the American faithful, the Holy Spirit will send us out on a mission to share the gift of our Eucharistic Lord as we enter the Universal Church's Jubilee year in 2025. So you think, man, Pentecost Sunday, that's still 2025, that's 2 years away. It's going to come fast, though, I bet. So, and St. Teresa of Calcutta said, quote, Jesus has made himself the bread of life to give us life, night and day. He is there. If you really want to grow in love, come back to Eucharist, come back to that adoration. And St. John Vianney says, our Lord is hidden there in the Blessed Sacrament, waiting for us to come and visit him and make our request to him. So, really great quotes by really great saints. And again, just like I said, with COVID, doing the podcast, it's really affected me just really to be more devout towards the Eucharist and adoration. Really more having a better, fully belief in it. Like I said, it wasn't like I really much saying, okay, well, the Eucharist is not Jesus, I'm just receiving. But you have kind of a next stage, you feel more closer to him. And basically, after communion, say the St. Padre Pio prayer, stay with me, Lord, stay with me, Lord, stay with me, Lord. Because again, God loves when we give thanks to him after we receive him in Holy Communion too, since he's in us. We're at the temple for about 10-15 minutes with that. And basically, I can't remember if Father Mike Schmidt said this or if I'm maybe doing this on my own, but I'll kind of wrap up the show with this, with thank yous, but it is basically Eucharistic Revival. We're all brothers and sisters in the Christian church. We're all brothers and sisters. We are many parts of Jesus' body, but we're separating, and that's not really okay. We know that the Catholic Church is the only one true church, and other Protestant Christian friends don't believe that, which is really, really sad, because again, that's kind of one of the things Eucharistic Revival is happening as well, is I think it's for unity of the church. Like Father Mike says, we need to have unity in the church. And I think that's probably one of the ideas, because again, if you get out, if you do the things, and people see you doing the things, like having a procession in your town of the Eucharist and the Monstrous, people see that. People are kind of amazed by that. People want to be a part of it. So again, I think it's also for unity of the church, because the church needs to be unified, and it's a call for Catholic unity. And for any fallen away Catholics or anything, I just really recommend that you kind of dive into it, or even also non-Catholics, because again, like, the Catholic Church is the one true church, and other denominations are separated by that. And the Lord says, hey, that's not okay. And actually, St. Paul said that. He's like, that's okay. You guys can't be separated. We all believe in the same Jesus. It was something like, it was like Jesus' life or something. Like, there was the Last Supper, there was this, and you guys don't believe that Jesus is truly body, blood, soul, and divinity in the Eucharist. So I think it's also for unity in the church as well. So try to find unity in the Eucharistic Revival, and try to really spend more time in adoration, and go to the Mass as often as possible, being so grace to receive, and also just really, like I said, give thanks to him afterwards. So, anyway, because again, that is another way God has affected my life as well. So again, those two go hand in hand, so that's really cool. Finally, I know we're 45 minutes in, but thank you, everyone. I want to do a quick thank you list here. First of all, I want to thank you for the I guess I want to give thanks to God for calling me on this ministry. I just pray I'm doing His will right. I'm doing His will effectively. I'm doing His will the way He wants it done. So I ask for your prayers for me on that as well. And I just pray that I can keep doing it. I pray that's His will as well. You know, I mean, I'll do His will, but I just pray like I can keep doing it just because, like I said, I'm learning so much more about the faith, and it's really affecting me in that sense of life. Um, I want to thank my family. Without their support, I mean, I wouldn't be possible. From starting the podcast in my sister's bedroom to now being down in the basement in my own area studio down here is very special. I want to thank my friends who have started from day one, who have listened, and I mean, because without you guys, it wouldn't be possible. Um, so thank you guys for that. Guests, of course. Without you, the show wouldn't be as what it is, just because people don't tune in to listen to me try to give definitions, examples, and stuff that, like I said, maybe I don't really do the best at. So I have you guys on to come on and talk about stuff who's more professional, who know you guys know more about it. So all of the guests, there's too many to name, so many to name, but I can't get them all in. But thank you all, from local guests to national guests to out of country guests. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and your commitment towards my show. And if you want to come back on again, you're most welcome to come back on again. I have enjoyed all of you on. It's not one single guest that I'm like, hey, I wish he or she was on the show every single time, because there was some, every guest. It's really been a great experience with me, and made lots of great new friends from that. And I want to thank you all for that. Hope to do more shows with you in the future. Finally, for you, the listeners, the supporters of the show, I really appreciate all your support. The donations have been really coming in. Thank you for Dr. Katrina Wynn for doing the fundraising on the book, Learn to Give, Live to Give. Um, if you haven't ordered it, please do so quickly. Um, Sponsor the show, donate to us. Thank you for that. Donations. And of course, like I said, the listeners, without you, again, I have listeners in 10 different countries. That's really, very, very cool. Most of the listeners are women, actually, and they're like, 45 to 55 or something. That's kind of the range that I like show. So I'm just for everyone to just thank you for, again, watching the show on Facebook and YouTube, listening on Spotify, iHeart Radio, Anchor, all of my other platforms, following the show on Instagram, Twitter. That's Now in Truth Social on GETTR. Check out our webpage. And I hope to do another 100 episodes. And if you have any questions about today's show, if you have any more feedback on the show, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to answer them. I'd like to answer your feedback, whether it's great or if it's criticism. I'd like to happy to help answer them, explain that as well. So again, thank you all for joining me on this longer episode of Catholic Table Talk. 100th is in the books. Again, check out the links below in the description box. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the show on all of our platforms. We do stuff on each platform different, so please check them out. And if you have any other tips and tricks that I should be doing on the show, hey, reach out to me. I'll love to hear from you. So until next time, hey, keep up the faith. Don't stop believing. And like I said, spend time in more prayer, Eucharist, and adoration this week. And like I said, even though we're not in Let, we're not in Advent, we're not waiting, but we're still waiting on the second coming, and that can come at any time. So we need to be ready. So Take care, everyone. God bless. We'll see you next week, God willing, on Catholic Table Talk Podcast, episode 101. Next week, where everything Catholic is on the table.